Welcome to the second episode of my History Quote series, where I use historical text to tell the stories of the past. Today, I will read an excerpt from the beginning of Herodotus The Histories, written in the 5th century BC, where he explains what he believes to be the underlying causes of the Persian Wars. This is the showing forth of the enquiry of Herodotus of Halicarnassus, to the end that neither the deeds of men may be forgotten by lapse of time, nor the works great and marvelous, which have been produced some by Hellenes and some by barbarians, may lose their renown, and especially that the causes may be remembered for which these waged war with one another. Those of the Persians who have knowledge of history declare that the Phoenicians first began the quarrel. These, they say, came from that which is called the Erythraean Sea to this of ours, and having settled in the land where they continue even now to dwell, set themselves forthwith to make long voyages by sea. And conveying merchandise of Egypt and of Assyria, they arrived at other places and also at Argos. Now Argos was at that time in all points the first of the states within that land which is now called Hellas. The Phoenicians arrived then at this land of Argos and began to dispose of their ship's cargo. And on the 5th or 6th day, after they had arrived, when their goods had been almost all sold, there came down to the sea a great company of women, and among them the daughter of the king, and her name, as the Hellenes also agree, was Io, the daughter of Inachus. These, standing near the stern of the ship, were buying of the wares such as pleased them most, when of a sudden the Phoenicians, passing word from one to another, made a rush upon them, and the greater part of the women escaped by flight, but Io and certain others were carried off. So they put them on board their ship, and forthwith departed, sailing away to Egypt. In this manner the Persians report that Io came to Egypt, not agreeing therewith with the Hellenes, and this they say was the first beginning of wrongs. Then after this they say certain Hellenes put into the city of Tyre and Phoenicia, and carried off the king's daughter Europa. These would doubtless be Cretans, and so they were quits of the former injury. After this, however, the Hellenes, they say, were the authors of the second wrong, for they sailed into Aea of Colchis, and to the river Phasis with a ship of war, and from thence, after they had done all the other business for which they came, they carried off the king's daughter Medea, and the king of Colchis sent a herald to the land of Hellas, and demanded to have his daughter back. But they answered that, as the barbarians had given them no satisfaction for their crimes against Io the Argive, so neither would they give satisfaction to the barbarians for this. In the next generation after this, they say, Alexander the son of Priam, having heard of these things, desired to get a wife for himself by violence from Hellas, being fully assured that he would not be compelled to give any satisfaction for this wrong, inasmuch as the Hellenes gave none for theirs. So he carried off Helen, and the Hellenes resolved to send messengers first and to demand her back with satisfaction for the crime. And when they put forth this demand, the others alleged to them the crimes against Medea, saying that the Hellenes were now desiring satisfaction to be given to them by others, though they had given none themselves, nor had surrendered the person when demand was made. Up to this point, they say, nothing more happened than the carrying away of women on both sides. But after this, the Hellenes were very greatly to blame, for they set the first example of war, making an expedition into Asia before the barbarians made any into Europe. Now they say that in their judgment, though it is an act of wrong to carry away woman by force, it is a folly to set one's heart on taking vengeance for their crime, and the wise course is to pay no regard when they have been carried away, for it is evident that they would never be carried away if they were not themselves willing to go. And the Persians say that they, namely the people of Asia, when their women were carried away by force, had made it a matter of no account. But the Hellenes, on account of a woman, gathered together a great armament, and then came to Asia and destroyed the dominion of Priam, and that from this time forward they had always considered the Hellenic race to be their enemy. For Asia and the barbarian races which dwelt there, the Persians claim as belonging to them. But Europe and the Hellenic race they considered to be parted off from them. The Persians, for their part, say that things happened thus, and they conclude that the beginning of their quarrel with the Hellenes was on account of the taking of Ilion. But as regards to Io, the Phoenicians do not agree with the Persians in telling the tale thus, for they deny that they carried her off to Egypt by violent means, and they say on the other hand that when they were in Argos she was intimate with the master of their ship, and perceived that she was with child. She was ashamed to confess it to her parents, and therefore sailed away with the Phoenicians of her own will for fear of being found out. Thanks for watching. What do you think about Herodotus's portrayal of the stolen women and their role in sparking the Trojan and Persian Wars? Which historical text would you like me to read next? Let us know in the comments below.